Quest reported that the personal information of 12 million customers was recently compromised.
So Stan, some news about a data breach out of the health industry, correct?
That's right, Joe. I was actually reading this article on bleepingcomputer.com, and it pointed me to this SEC filing in which Quest Diagnostics mentioned that they received a notice from one of their collections agencies that collections agency believes that a database with private information for about 11.9 million customers has been breached and was accessible by somebody who wasn't supposed to be able to access it.
So the collections agency, not Quest itself?
Right, not Quest itself.
Okay. So Quest had to do the SEC filing for the breach, but really it's their subcontractor, their affiliate partner that had the issue.
So in a sense, the breach is kind of segregated because of the supplier or the vendor that was compromised.
Okay.
What I found interesting is actually I like to always go back to the source of the data and read. I read this SEC filing, and I'm just looking at interesting things like the breach was reported to Quest on May 14th, 2019. So that wasn't that long ago because this filing was made like June 3rd. So it's about 15 days for them to understand what happened, get the details, and then make the appropriate filing. So that's pretty good. But the breach itself, they believe, at least that's what the billing collections agency is telling them, actually happened between August 1st of 2018 last year and the end of March this year. So it was about an eight month time frame there. And these things, you can't say it's anybody's fault necessarily for like how long it took. It just sometimes, this is the way it is. It takes something strange or strange behavior that goes unnoticed and suddenly becomes new because maybe a new technology was introduced into the process,
right,
and they were able to find it. And they did mention that we had financial information that was lost, some kind of medical information, and personal information like social security numbers and things like that. So it's very unfortunate. And they did mention, these 11.9 million people, almost 12 million people.
Is there anything about whether customers were notified?
It's not clear from the SEC filing if they were notified or not. But I did actually it's actually a very concise summary here, very well worded in the SEC filing. You would think it's going to be some kind of very complicated statement. But they do mention that since this moment that they found out, they're working with law enforcement, they're working with different security partners and vendors to figure out what happened.
They're real direct, real explicit about what happened, what's being done, who's working on it, what they're working on, and really it seemed like a thorough response to this kind of incident.
I read in one of the reports that the subcontractor, the billing collector, had to call in some external help to do forensics and investigate it. They likely didn't have their staff in their own firm that was capable of doing the kind of investigation necessary to figure out what all was potentially exposed. So I read that they brought in an outside firm to help with forensics, and then they're also working with law enforcement. So that's another issue with the subcontractors is what kind of staff do they have, to do these kinds of investigations? What kind of instrumentation do they have in place to detect things like this?
Well, especially if they're handling sensitive information, you just expect their responsibility. You could say they're small, they're unprepared, but if they're handling sensitive information, health information, privacy information, there has to be some expectation of good security practice. That's just a minimum bar.
That's a great point. And it's something to be aware of as you're drafting different contracts with vendors about what your expectations are for their security response, for their monitoring and things like that. So for large, medium, any kind of business, understanding the security considerations of your suppliers and vendors, especially when it comes to handling your own customers' private information is very important.